Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invite. This is the second time I've been here. Have any of you heard me speak before? Oh, sorry, I haven't got any better. I've got a little bit more inappropriate because I've got a little bit more passionate about my subject. Now, you've heard about some great things up there in space. They're great, but the main attraction is obviously flies, because everybody loves flies. I love flies. I'm very obsessed by studying. I'm very happy to go all around the world studying them. Max might have his telescopes in the desert. Here's me hoovering a pig in a city farm in London. It doesn't get more glamorous than that. Here is me playing with poo, because yes, a lot of flies like poo. I love poo. I probably say poo far too much. My family, holiday photos of me, really not quite worth it. But I'm also very lucky. This is in a church forest of Ethiopia. And I'm very lucky. I go and collect these flies. I study these flies. I bring them back to the UK legally. And those years of the British Empire have gone, everyone. I bring them back legally and I identify them. And I'm very obsessed with their form and their function. I'm very nosy, so I like to figure out what's going on. And I'm very lucky that I have some very good microscopes at work to help me analyze stuff. But we have been looking at flies for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's interesting when they talk about art and science and what we've done, because this was a book which you should all have called Micrographia. Okay, it's this British dude called Robert Hooke, and he got himself a newfangled invention back in the 1600s, a microscope. And what he did, what every good person did, he looked at everything close to him. Yes, he looked at his own sperm under the microscope. And you can have a look at it in this book. And that's great, but the most important things was he started looking at flies, because flies were all around him and he was able to look at it. And so this drawing that is hundreds of years old is actually anatomically correct. Okay, he got the species wrong, but you can't have everything. But here we are looking at the head of a fly, and this is amazing. You can see the individual eye facets, these photo units, and you can see how they change in shape and position. So he was great. He had already started looking at these creatures to understand how they see, how they operate, how they maneuver themselves in this three-dimensional world that they live in. Nowadays, there's a lot more technology on my hands, okay? So I am now looking at very high-resolution images of a fly. Does anyone know what this fly is? Obviously, you all do. No? Well, I'm glad you don't know, because if you're looking this close at a fly, you're dead. Because this is a bluebottle or a blowfly, okay? And so this is a very important forensic fly. It turns up at the... Don't go around murdering people, folks. It's really hard to get away with it because of these flies, because they can come and find you. So I am very lucky. I get to study them. And again, you can look at these eyes. Look at how many individual photo units are going on there. This is why it's really important we have these images. We can look at the bristles on their face. We can look at the arrangement of the veins on the wings. We can look at the hairs on their legs. And more important with me is that we can play with their genitalia. I love genitalia, but I do it for science, not for pleasure. So first off, what is a fly? So we call many things flies. We call dragonflies flies. They're not flies. We call mayflies flies. They're not flies. This is why common names are terrible. They mean nothing. So diptera, diptera. Di means two, terra is wings. So these have two wings. That's what makes them a fly. These have suctorial mouth parts. Have you told anyone that you've been bitten by a mosquito? You haven't. You have been pierced, sliced, maimed, shredded, but never bitten. Okay? And then they also have these halters. And this is why flies are the best flyers on the planet. Okay? These are these proprioceptors. These are these dumbbells that enable them to stabilize. They can loop the loop. They fly upside down. They can migrate vast distances. So their form and their shape is fantastic. However, flies are, as my lecturer said, and I'm allowed to use this, kids in the audience, sneaky fuckers. because they change their form so readily, okay? Some flies don't have wings. Some flies don't have mouth parts. Some flies don't have legs. You're like, what are you doing? And then that's just the adult stage, because in flies, we have the beautiful larvae. Isn't it a cute photo? You're looking at its anus. So cute. Because, yes, they're what we affectionately call bum breathers. Okay? So those two little eyes are its anal spiracles. There we go. And so they breathe through that. Now, this might seem quite amusing, but it makes sense. Have you tried to eat whilst not breathing? No, don't. Don't, kids, please don't. Because you would actually pass out. Now, the larval stage of many of these creatures is all about eating. They are basically fat babies, okay, engorging themselves, senseless. Look at these ones. I think these ones look like fighter pilots in World War II with brilliant moustaches, okay? And these live in your garden. These are all crane flies, daddy long-leg larvae. Okay, and it's the larval stage that's really good because they live in very different environments to their adults. Here we go. This one has a telescopic anal spiracle. I get to say things like this for work. It's very good. This is the king or queen of bum breathing. Okay, and why? It's because they can go down, these larvae can go down into really anoxic environments. There's no oxygen down there. And they're able to feast on this quagmire of feces, on this decomposing plant material, all of that is in your garden, that is in your compost, hopefully not in your house. And this is really good. They're the original hipsters. They're converting energy. You know, they like recycling. They're totally into it. And then you get these beautiful adults. They go through this complete change in morphology to become these amazing creatures. And this is called the Batman hoverfly. Can you see why it's called the Batman hoverfly? It's got the little symbol of the bat on its back. You talk about crap names in science. We've got loads of them. And this adult is a really important pollinator. And that's the thing we don't think about with flies. We just think about them doing all the nasty stuff, but actually we need them. They're a mega diverse group, okay? They have so much form and variety. We've described about 165,000 types of species. I looked up how many flies are described in Bulgaria. You need to get your fingers out. Not many have been described here. More have been described in the UK than here. And you're quite a large country. So please, after this talk, get your nets up that mountain and go for it. But they're mega diverse. They're species rich. There's tons of them. They get everywhere. You know, I've been watching them flying around the auditorium today. So I don't know what you're doing in your spare time, but okay. And they're very diverse in their form. So we've got three types here. One's got a massive red head. When they described this 200 years ago, they said that the red head glowed. It's a total lie. Science is full of lies like this. We don't know why the red head is, but we think it's something to do with sex. Because another reason I love flies is they're probably the most naughty animals on the planet. So, and because they're so diverse in form, because they're so amazing, we get them doing everything. So they're decomposers, they're plant pollinators, they're predators, they're parasites. I love a parasite. I mean, who doesn't? Something that engorges itself and the other animal dies slowly and painfully is like a romantic night at the movies for me. So I love them. You've got the blood feeders, you've got the fungivores, and you've got the pollinators. If you like chocolate, you need flies. Okay? Nice cup of tea, flies. The reason we have cheese was because a fly fell into milk 2,000 years ago and produced cheese. Okay? There's many reasons we need flies. Now, in this talk, I'm going to talk you through the body of a fly. I'm going to start off in the head, go through the thorax, ending in the abdomen, of course, ending on a high of the genitalia. And I want to talk about how their senses adapt and what they do and how their different body adapts to enable them to be so successful in the environment. So we talk about flies being disgustingly dirty, okay? Everybody says that. They're like, ugh. Actually, flies have to be exceptionally clean. They spend so much time cleaning themselves, especially their head. They can taste with their feet, okay? They can taste with the tops of their wings. And what they need to do is to keep their massive eyes, all of these things, exceptionally clean. This is a oh yeah, sorry, there may be some soft porn photos. Should have put a disclaimer out there. This is a family of flies. We've originally called, I love this, they're called big-headed flies. I think you can see why. Yeah, not very interesting. They're called pedunculids, in case you really want to know. And they're all eyes, because these are parasitoids, okay? Now, usually it's the males that are all eyes, because we know this in humans. Females don't care about sex. Females care about food. Males care about sex. So the males generally have what we call holistic heads. They're all eyes. All they're doing is trying to find the ladies, which is very nice. But in this case, the lady, she's on the bottom. She's got these really enlarged eye facets. Now, when we think of these eye facets, what she has about 5,000 of these on her head that make up their eyes. Each one of those is an individual photo unit. It's a camera. Okay? Now, with all other insects, that camera is just one long tube. Not with flies. How many of you tried to squat a fly? Oh, don't put your hands up with me. Okay. Obviously, none of you have. But if theoretically you tried it and you went like that, most of you will be highly unsuccessful. Karate Kid is very much an exception, okay? But this is because in flies, each of those eye facets has been split into 7 photo units. So its depth of field, its acuity, even though it has only 5,000 ommatidia, these photo units, it has 35,000, 42,000, trying to remember maths, images going on at one time. It has super processors, and it has a very short, very complicated neurological network to enable it to process it. So it basically sees you as in the Matrix. So you come to a, and the fly's like, Okay. They're vicious predators with their amazing eyesight. They don't have to be big, though. This is my friend's finger, just to show you how vicious and large these amazing flies are. In fact, we're looking at these flies to understand jump jet technology and how we can do all sorts of amazing stuff. But flies being flies, they don't just use their eyes for looking. Oh, nope. They use it for flirting. Okay, and these are stalk-eyed flies. If you need an example of males being bonkers, hello. So this happened independently in flies 22 times. It's like the females were like, what's he got? Why can't we have that? Oi, Jeremy, grow your eyes out. And they were like, okay. And this evolved that many times. And this is great because between the larval stage and the adult stage, you get this pupal stage. And it's within here that they basically dissolve most of their bodily tissue from their larval stage and create the adult form. So you can look inside and watch these optic nerves growing and growing and growing till the adult pops out the pupal case, engulfs a load of air and blows up his eyes. And then he headbutts other males. It's very Scottish. I'm Scottish, I'm allowed to say this. But this is how they flirt. If they have eye stalks that are the same size, they do what deer do, and they go and headbutt each other. When I was in Ethiopia, instead of being a good student and collecting flies, my PhD supervisor turned around for half an hour, lost me, because I was watching the males beating each other up. And what's quite cool, some of them, if they're too close in eye stalks, they get on their back legs and start punching each other. It's just brilliant. I love nature. Also on the head, you've got the mouth parts. Now, we often think about them with their spongy mouth parts vomiting onto you or slicing through and lapping your pooling blood, which is great. But not all of them have mouth parts. This is a really cute fly, is it? You're going to not trust me soon. I don't know why. I'm a doctor, trust me. It's coming up to Christmas. And what did Rudolph have? He had a red nose. And none of the other reindeers liked him. And that's because he had a botfly up his nostril. And this is a female botfly. And she squirts 200 maggots up the nostril of a reindeer using her, what's acutely termed, uterine juices. It's good, isn't it? You'll be glad to know humans get a botfly as well, but we don't get them squirted up our nostril. In fact, this is the sheep nasal botfly, and this is the ones we can get. I don't know how many of you hang around sheep. Any Welsh people in the room? Nope. Okay, this is quite interesting because what we were looking at is how on earth they're managing to survive as adults if they don't feed. So we use micro-CT scanning. I've been put through a micro-CT scanner because I have loads of cycling accidents in London, but we have a tiny one at work and I put maggots through it. And we're able to look at the development of maggots. And here we can see the green bit is the gut. So when they're a maggot, they are basically all guts. Okay, they've just got to eat as much as possible. And then during the pupal stage, as they convert themselves into these glorious forms of adults, this gut basically disappears completely. They have no function for it whatsoever. And it's interesting because these reindeer botflies, these sheep nasal botflies, can migrate hundreds of kilometers after the adults that they're trying to host. So it's an amazing use of reserves. And this is another botfly, and this is arguably one of the most endangered species on the planet, because this botfly chose to live in the stomach of a rhino. Exactly. Now, this is why we don't have many in the collection, because I don't know how many of you hang around the backsides of rhino, but it is quite a difficult collection environment. So we don't advocate it, and we're not allowed to use students for that sort of thing anymore. But it is critically endangered. But many of them do have the most amazing mouth parts. This specimen specifically really disappoints me because on the label it says children's sale. And I was like, what, they're selling children? And it turned out it was the man called Children who was selling his flies. I was like, oh. But these are nemestrinids. These are found in South Africa, and these are guild pollinators. If these flies died out, you'll have many species of plant that would die out. How many of you heard of Darwin's moth? Okay, and his orchid and his obsession with things like that. He predicted, it was called Predictor, this moth with a very long mouth part to deal with these very long tubed orchids. These are even better. If this was a human, your tongue would be 6 meters long. It's not bad. But unlike butterflies and moths, you can't curl up your tongue. You have to walk along, dragging your tongue along the ground. It's not very pleasant. And I have to say, the first time I saw these in the field, I did laugh. It was very disrespectful of the flies, sorry flies. But what they do is they can ratchet their mouth part underneath them, and then they can slot it back into place when they're about to feed. So it is quite remarkable. They have pumps in their head because there is no muscles along any of that mouth part. Okay, so they have pumps. They have up to 6 pumps to enable them to pass fluids up and down. This is a local one. You get them here. They're my favorite fly in the UK, probably favorite animal. I mean, they eat baby bees, which is not very good PR. But apart from that, they're wonderful creatures. And actually, this is where we've been asking citizens to help us understand more about the behavior, the ecology, the timings of everything. Because everybody has a mobile phone. And everybody is now going into their gardens and taking these photos for us. And we are now able to see, look at what this one's doing. This one's mouth part is massively expanding. We had no idea this sort of thing was going on a couple of years ago. Okay? So these are just citizens going, oi, what's this? And we're like, pretend we know what they're talking about. But we're adding it to our data. This is why it's really important to get everybody involved in this. This is the mouth part that maybe some of you have been more intimately associated with, the mosquito. It is only the female that you have become intimate with. Why do you think it's the female? Because she's the mother, okay? She's the mother who's doing the best for her offspring. The fathers, nowhere to be seen. Fathers are all vegetarians. They don't care. They're just probably drinking lattes somewhere. Okay? But it's the mother, and she needs her blood meal because that's how the eggs develop. She's the one who's there doing all the effort as per usual. And therefore, she's developed this most amazing thing because, you know, it is an extreme environment to come up and quickly blood feed off you. Okay? We're quite, you know, we can see these things happening. So what she's got to do, she's got to get in, pierce through our skin, get out of there within seconds before we notice. And most of us will not notice till after the feeding has happened. And this is because she employs a lot of cunning tricks. She's very cunning, is this little lady. First of all, she's got these mouth parts. There's 6 of them, and she will only pierce a couple of them through your skin. Now, at the end of them, the ones that go through your skin, she's got little blades. She's got like circular saws. And what she will do is that she will basically operate what is like a pneumatic drill. She's like, on your skin. And in doing so, she uses, I think it's 16 micronewtons, which is 2/3, well, sorry, yes, it's 2/3 less than if you were having an artificial needle put in you. Okay? So you really don't know it's there. And this is great, and they are actually developing smart needles based on a mosquito. Gets even better. Underneath your skin, when the mouth part is there, it's moving around. Oh, come on. It's amazing. And it's moving around. It's sniffing out your blood. It's so cool. You should go home, sit in the garden, roll your sleeves up, and do yourselves. It's great. So she's sniffing the blood. Okay, she's finding out what's going on. And again, this is where medics have got involved and thought, hold on, this is really useful. We want to do any brain surgery. We want to do things like that. We want to be able to manipulate this needle under the skin, past bits of tissue that are very delicate, okay, and deal with that. So we have to thank these mosquitoes and their amazing technology. They've taken millions of years to evolve. We're on to the antennae. This is how they hear. Okay, this is an amazing thing, and they've got lots of different ways that they hear, but we actually have no clue really what's going on. Brilliant. We've taken 350 years to still not really get anywhere. But one of the things we have learnt is about this little fly. Now, we've moved off the head, and we're onto the main body of this fly. And this fly, if you look below the hole on the body, there appears to be a segment of orange. You see, it's like a satsuma segment. So this fly is 7 millimeters long, okay? And she flies at night. She wants to find crickets and grasshoppers for her babies to plant them in there. But if she flies at night, it's very dark, so she can't really hear. Now, she's also very small. Now, humans are some of the best creatures on the planet for triangulating noise. We're able to work out where things come from, okay? We have this big gap. Okay, there's nothing going on in there. Okay, they have this big gap they're able to triangulate. That gap is 1.5 millimeters. Okay, it's tiny. So they have lots of crickets going off, and it's like, oh my God, there's just overwhelming noise. I can't figure out what's going on. So inside, they have this rocking organ, and it is able to amplify the noise, and it's able to give them a direction. Okay, so they now can travel vast distances and really accurately pinpoint what's going on. It's great. We've mimicked that. We've created tiny, tiny little hearing aids based on those. So once more, death and destruction in nature is helping us look after people. It's ironic, really. So we move on to the body. There's lots of bristles. Now, if you do taxonomy, I presume none of you do taxonomy of flies. I do swear a lot because I have to count these bristles. They're really difficult. Lots of them fall out. It's a nightmare. I drink a lot of gin. But a lot of these use these for all sorts of things. And this is one of our favorites because this is a scuba diving fly. Okay? Again, it's the female. Just saying. Okay, and she's great. Now, we get lots of scuba diving insects. It's nothing new, okay? We can see them in our ponds. We can see beetles swimming around. We can see bugs swimming around. Few flies. But this one lives in the Mono Lakes of California. And this is arguably the most saline environment on the planet. There is no output of the water. Anything that comes in, it gets saltier and saltier and saltier. So anything normally that gets in this pond dies, okay? It's a terrible place to live for most things. So if you can figure out how to live in it, it's absolutely great. Now, the thing is, I had to read some physics papers for this. You're a nightmare. And they talk about the language. Oh, it was so hard. But if I can understand the physics correctly about this, it is the arrangement of the bristles that starts off. But then the chemists got involved, and the chemists were like, don't lead us out. Okay. And they said it's about the cuticular hydrocarbons. So on the waxy layer that covers all of these insects, you get all these different chemicals. And these hydrocarbons are really important. They help us age. They change with age, with sex, with all sorts of things. But they also create this nice little layer. Then the physicists said, hold on a minute, it's us again. Because actually, this fly has to enter the water at a specific angle and a specific force for this plastron, this air bubble, to be formed. So they hit the water with 18 times more speed than they would normally be going. And they hit it exactly 45 degrees. And then the female, she's able to penetrate and she dives down to the bottom, or rather she crawls down the bottom. Please note, the eye is uncovered. I don't know how this has happened. It's an amazing thing, and I have no idea what's going on. So she basically has inverse goggles when she goes underwater. She lays her larvae. Now, larvae of many diptera don't care, many flies. Some of them live in petrol tanks. Some of them feed off perfume. It's like, they were like, should we have a go? Should we eat it? Why not? And so they're at the bottom of this thing. They've got loads of dead animals. It's the best place for them. And when she wants to get out, she just lets go. Bing! And she just pops out. I mean, this is on my top 10 places to visit in the world. My partner's not so happy about this. But I think it'd be great to watch all these flies bursting out of this lake. Legs. We move to the middle bits. I walk around a lot. Legs, very important. Flies use them around, walking around a lot. But flies being flies, they use them flirting. They do a lot of waving. Honestly, the boys dance. You can watch them dancing a lot. They've got a lot of moves. In fact, there's a sex lab in Singapore if you want to go and check out online videos. Some of them quite inappropriate. But they do all sorts of dancing, whatever going on. But they also, the males have realized, the best way to get females to have sex with them is to give them a present. And this is called nuptial gift giving. It's coming up to Christmas. And what's happened is that the females don't hunt at all. The males go out and they get her a nice dead corpse. She feasts on it. It's lovely. He's had his time. It's like, da, da, da. This is all really funky. And then she's like, oh, now finished. Now I'm off. And he's like, oh, hold on. I have not finished. And she's like, I don't care. So the ones with the big lumps on the front of their legs, these are the ones who've developed silk glands. So they get that fly, they wrap it up, okay, and present her this box of chocolates. And they then, so she takes a little bit of time, and she wants to know, she's there opening it, he's having sex with it, it's all great, she's feeding on it, everything is going well, but now he's finished before she's finished eating. So he takes the fly back and rewraps it. It gets worse, you males. Because some of them don't even bother getting a fly. This one in the middle, he's blown up a ball of saliva. It's not funny. It's not. And then even better is some of them have registered that actually, why are we bothering hunting? Why don't we make the females do the work? Finally, males have got it. And so there's these ones. And the males in these ones, they love a woman with hairy legs. Okay? They love her with her big fat arms. This is me, COVID. Okay? And then even best, the females have what's called irreversible abdominal sacs. She blows up her ass. So she, mid-air, wraps her hairy legs round her inflated sacs and dances. It's like going back to the 1980s. And this is good. I mean, there is a technical reason for this. This is to show how fecund she can get. She can have 200 eggs in this massive bum. It's great. But we know them for flying. And this is the New Zealand cannibal fly. It's not. That's, again, a silly name. It has massive wings because he doesn't use them for flying. He uses them for flirting. But the hovers are the ones we know for flying. Okay? These are beautiful beasts. These are all from my garden. They're wonderful pollinators, okay? And why they're so good pollinators, like me, is they can never find their mouth, okay? And food gets all over them. Unlike the pretty bees, oh, I'm a bee. I've got little pollen sacs, and look at me dainty. I go home every night. Flies, no, they don't care. They're out to all hours, get up early in the morning, go to bed late at night, doing their pollination, pollen all over them, and they're spreading this pollen far and wide. Really important pollinators. And when I say far and wide, I really mean it, because these lot can travel hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kilometers. We're only just beginning to look at migration studies of pollinators. This is a Eupioides corale, okay? It's one of the migratory ones, and this flies from Syria, from Iran, Iraq, from Morocco, all across Europe to end up in the UK. 4 billion hoverflies turn up each year in the UK, and we export more than that back. One thing the UK does well, we produce lots of hoverflies for a migrant community. That's it. But it's really good. Now, these, unlike the other hoverflies I talked about before, these do not feed on decomposing material. No, these ones have larvae, which we call ophidophagus. Okay, they eat aphids. If you see walking bird shit in your garden, it is not that. You are not recovering after going out with this lot for a night drinking. It really is them walking around. These maggots are amazing. Just think about them as sleeping bags full of vegetable soup, just crawling along. And these consume up to 600 aphids. I don't know what you call aphids, black flies, white flies. If any of you garden, it's the thing that eats all your crops. They consume 600 before they get to an adult. The female can lay up to 2,000 eggs. So you're now talking trillions of biological warfare units turning up in the UK. So this is brilliant. They are passing on nitrogen and phosphorus as they move. They are dropping biological control agents everywhere. They are pollinating. These little marvels are doing wonders. So we really must thank them, especially in the current crisis with the climate. So this is one of our hoverflies. This turned up 100 years ago in the UK. It's a Volocella. And thanks again to citizen scientists, we've been mapping its spread across the UK. So we are able now to look at when they emerge, when they come out, how they spread, and we can link this not only to land use change, but climate change. So we can provide excellent data from both our collections, plus all of you lot out there doing it. We move on to the final and the best stage of the evening, the day, talking about the bums of flies. This is soldier flies. I call these fat bottom flies. They make my rocking well go round. Oh, come on, no. Thanks. I love them. Imagine if your bum was wider than you are long. That's what they are. It would be a nightmare flying, but apart from that, how amazing. You've always got a seat. And again, we generally go on about the genitalia, and that's all really good, but actually we need to think about with the larval stage, because there's still some funky adaptations going on there. Now, in New Zealand, there's a very famous tourist attraction, the glowworm caves. My mum went, she said it was amazing. She had no idea. It was basically a massive fight club with a load of fly maggots. Because what they are is these are the larvae of a fungus gnat, and they bioluminesce. Now, there's many creatures that bioluminesce, and this has the same enzyme, the luciferase enzyme that they do, but being a fly, it's created its own action, the own luciferin that is unique to it. And what they do is they have death balls. It's good, isn't it? They fish, so they produce these like little balls of necrotic agents that dissolves creatures alive. I'm such a fun person to hang around with. It dissolves, they fish down with these balls of death. And then as the little moth going, oh, look at the pretty lights, little pretty lights. And then it pours it up and it's great. Now these are vicious. If one of their siblings gets too close to them, they will eat it. So they're not nice. But what we are using them is we are dyeing genes. We're using this bioluminescence once more in medicine. So we can actually turn off, turn on, understand all these sorts of things associated with vicious siblings, which is quite nice. But the main event is the genitalia. Now, usually, and I'm not just weird here, okay? It's not just my little fetish. I look at fly genitalia. Don't judge me. It is because the genitalia is the fastest evolving part of the fly. So if you've got different genitalia, you know you've probably got different species. Now, most of the time, it's all about males because they have all their bits on display, and we ignore the females. Ignore females at your peril. These are females. They've developed tin openers for genitalia. So they will slice through the backs of other creatures to lay their legs in. It's good, isn't it? Can you imagine if we did that? I dream of those days. There are some that slice through the heads of ants, which is quite fun. I mean, imagine having your genitalia as a saw. But then you've got the boys. And finally, I'm showing you a male penis of value. Because not only, look at it, look at beautiful curly-whirly structures. One of them looks like a corkscrew. Hallelujah. It's like we can finally get a glass of wine at the same time. It's very, very handy. Now, you may be like, what on earth is this going on? Why do we need so much weird genitalia? It's because the oldest war, the very oldest war, is the battle between the sexes. Okay, the males and the females. And what goes on inside is crazy. So although we don't know much about the male, well, we don't know much about the female structure, we understand it is basically a chemical warfare in there. It's brilliant. And so the males had to adopt all these amazing adaptations, these super-duper penises, to be able to fight inside to actually try and get their sperm to the female. Because inside females, we're like a chemist shop. It's thousands, well, in some flies, there's about 25 vats, and they're stirring pots of sperm, which is it's quite fun, really, isn't it? And they're stirring this, and then eventually they will get rid of it if they don't want to use it, or they will use it. So the males have had to do all sorts of weird adaptations going on, and they have created what we call megasperm. Now, human sperm, there's lots of it, often wasted, and it's very small. Now, lots of flies, they have developed a different strategy and produced this very large sperm. How many of you have played with Drosophila melanogaster? The Drosophila melanogaster. It's a very famous fly. Not heard of it? If you've done any genetics, any biology, this is the fruit fly that is used in labs all around the world. This fly is 3 millimeters long. Its sperm is 1 millimeter long. A third of your body, sperm. That's good. That's good. But it's not as good as this one. This is Drosophila bifurca. This 3 millimeter long fly has sperm 5.8 centimeters long. That is the equivalent of humans ejaculating a blue whale. Luckily, it is not as big or as wide as a blue whale, because that would be really awkward in flats and hotels around the world. I'm very sorry. But it's very broad. And so it's fighting, it's trying to push out. And here is basically a pea shooter. It kind of like squirts out this little fuzzy, you know, it's like belly button fluff. Kind of looks like that. It's just being popped out. And he only has about 100 of them. So he doesn't have the terrible teenage wasted years. But that's not over. So we've gone from the head, the thorax, the legs, the wings. We've moved on to the genitalia. The female has got pregnant. Pregnant, Erica? Yes, because some flies do, in fact, give birth to live young. This is a fly. Can you tell? Now, there's a smiley face. What does a smiley face mean? Bottoms. Excellent. So that's his bottom you're looking at. And the bit beside it that looks like a pear was a normal-looking fly. Now, she's a bat fly. She got pregnant. And she's like, okay, I have to now move home and do something quite different. So first off, she sticks her head in the side of the bat. She then rips her wings off and rips her legs off. She then invaginates her bum over her entire body. She has wrapped her bum round her body, and that's all you can see is her little anal spiracles poking out the side of a bat. This is in your garden. How cool. You don't need to go into space. There's aliens everywhere. This is a robber fly. I'm wearing this necklace. This is highly venomous. It's part of the neglected venomics group. Okay? These are vicious predators. These can dissolve so many things. They're brilliant. I was holding this. I did just slightly prick myself, going, oh, this might hurt. But it's part of the unknown yet. There's all these amazing things.
In her 2017 work, The Secret Life of Flies, the entomologist Erica McAlister estimated that for each person on Earth, there are how many flies? The figure in question is about the population of Zambia or the Netherlands. You can have 3 million either way.
6 million.
No, it's 17 million. Amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing. And that's the thing. There's so much that we need to learn, to study. We don't need to go into space. It's all fine. But we need to look after our one planet that we know there is life on. And there's so much undescribed life here that we need to look after, explore, and understand. And to help you do so, there's some very fine books that can do that. Thank you very much.